Right, as we said, there's a lot of good things with your setup. Certainly looking down the line from the sort of iron shots we saw there, your posture was good, your alignment was good. Like I said, we take it for granted you will have good alignment on here. Out on a golf course, it could be different, but on here was good, so we'll say it was good there, okay? Grip position-wise, very good. There's a lot of good things I say in that setup. But for me, with a driver, or with most of your clubs, stance a bit wide.
Yeah.
And the weight looked a little bit kind of tipped on towards the ball with your feet, okay? So this left-hand one was your before, as you can see the stance, but they're quite dramatically changed there, okay? These are only practice swings, but your main swing doesn't get much wider than that in any case. So swing as you go back here. Now, the red lines there we've drawn, you can see you're sort of moving yourself through that red line. Now, in some ways, your head movement there is good, but because you're used to sliding your hips and your spine angle getting sort of tilted towards target, okay, what you'll see in a second when your hips stay inside the line, your spine angle still tips towards target, so now you can add a little bit steeper than ideally wanted, okay? What we're trying to do is, obviously, when we rotate, is rotate this hip out of the way, so I'm doing this. I'm not going, I'm pushing away to try and get away from that red line, okay? That'll come with a bit of practice, okay, and we'll show in a second what it looks like, okay, as a result, but generally speaking, that wider stance, that slide to the red line, you coming down too steep. The steeper the angle, like I say, 7s, 8s, maybe even 6 iron, you're able to hit golf shots with them, okay? There are certain swing characteristics that will favour certain clubs. If someone comes to a lesson and swings it really flat, really shallow around their body, quite low around this way, often hockey players or tennis players, they're sort of used to sort of low and high, they can hit their drivers quite good, but you give them a wedge or another, they can top everything. They can't, they just can't get the low point because their angle of attack is more conducive for a longer club, as opposed to your way, where you're very common, like football players with their legs, cricket players with their arms like this way, and so on, baseball players, they get quite steep because that's what they're used to doing, okay? So the steeper you are, the better your irons will be, and not so good the driver, okay? If we look at this backswing here now, this is all the movements you're making, as you'll see, making a turn there, it's going to be getting that right side behind the ball, but almost like you're pivoting a little bit to keep that head by the ball. That's not too bad there. Ideally, I want your head to be a little bit further over to this left as we look in terms of your right. These are your practice swings, okay? But you're doing all this feeling and movement there now, okay? That was all right. And then we step the golf ball here now. That line should sort of fit on your right leg there. There we go. So you can sort of see that green line now, sort of on this left side of your face there. Your hips work back nicely there. You just slid through a little bit there, but your head started to sort of almost like go a little bit towards this way, okay? You want to try and feel a little bit more upright with that spine. So a good way you can do that now in terms of the rotation. This is where I think using walls at home would be a good sort of practice. Set up against the wall there with no club, obviously, to put your arms across your chest as you did there, okay? And then just try and feel the rotation, so you're creating more room now between that hip and the wall. So when you go back here now, you can see as you're rotating there, it kind of stays leveled, so it doesn't really sort of move that way, but it's not really rotating around as we'd normally see, okay? So that's again a bit of practice is going to come with just repetition of doing that. And then you can face the other way. If I clear all these lines now, come here, and put a wall on this side, make a rotation where you feel your head is almost getting away from that wall, so your head sort of goes towards that blue line a little bit, sort of back of there, sort of. So if I'm making a swing here now against the wall here, I'm going to rotate, but feel like I'm not going to go into that wall. You kind of go think the wall, okay? So it's just being aware of kind of where your body is. And again, the position I always try and replicate for a lot of people, we'll show you a little drill you can do in a second now, I'll explain on here. If you're going to skim a pebble, throw a ball, you would see your spine angle kind of back here, kind of swinging sort of from underneath and shallow. We want your right shoulder to sort of work underneath to create the better path and the club face into the golf ball, okay? If you're leaning this way, all you can really do now is just come down quite steep. Like I say, that steeper angle of attack, it works with the sort of irons, but with the driver, with the longer clubs, doesn't quite become as efficient and stuff. And then you've got to try and figure out a way to how we can get the golf ball back to target. See the old one there, the size one there, 1844.
It's one of the worst ones,
And that's the thing, just, and you'll find there'll be a bit of a mismatch now between some of your old and new swings coming in, okay? But we can do some of those practice drills, and I think hopefully a lot of these things we've shown there, with especially the wall, do that at home. And I would encourage as best you can, and whether people do it or not, I don't know. Some people do, some people I know definitely won't. You can decide what you want to do and stuff. But if you could say, right, every day for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, you're in the kitchen, put the kettle on, you're brushing your teeth in the lid, whatever it may be, in that time frame when you find you sort of stood around, or you're doing, just find a wall, find a space, and just get that feeling of how that pivot should work. And I've always said to people before, especially younger guys tend to do it more because they're more tech savvy, film your movement in front of you from this direction here, film it, send it to me and say, is it looking all right? Am I doing it too much the other way or not enough, whatever? And in some ways, I'll send this video through to you as well. When you film yourself, you'll go, crikey, am I doing that? Okay, and you'll make sure you send over a good one. It'll almost encourage you to actually do more practice, because you don't want to send through, here you go, really I don't want it. I'm not look at that one, it looks awful. So it's just trying to get that kind of feeling, because any movement patterns that have got to change do take a bit of time. The more often you can do it, or the quicker you can do it, again, short, little and often for me is the key. Saying, oh, I want to go to the range twice a week and it balls for 3 hours, you're like, oh, I've got work, I've got family to go, too much time. But if we said, okay, right, every day for a minute, you can probably find a minute every day somewhere, whether it be in work or in the office or at home or whatever it may be. Just whatever time you can find, just to get that feeling of how that pivot's going to work, okay? And then the drill that I'm going to show you now, we've probably got to do here. You may have a sort of space back in the garden, you just sort of throw a ball at maybe a net or use a tennis ball against a wall. You stand back kind of, come here. You stand back off the wall somewhere over here, and you try and throw the ball in this mat so it bounces against the wall, and then you come back and catch it, yeah? So you'll be doing this here now against this wall, just sort of stood there, just going, and you just learn how to throw a ball right-handed this way, which obviously you can do, but the feeling of how you would do it, yeah? So you're throwing the ball in the ground so you can catch it, yeah? If you did this, now try and do, you think, well, that doesn't really compute. I'm going to have to sort of back it up now and try to, and then you start throwing too high. So just get that sensation of how you would throw a ball into the ground about 2 to 3 feet in front of you. So if you were here throwing it, in this position here, it'd be landing kind of a couple of feet in this direction here, hit the ground, bounce up, and you catch it, yeah? So you've got a tennis ball up against the wall. If you can throw it straight to the wall so you catch it, you know you're throwing your hands and arms towards target. If you throw it left, it ain't going to come back to you, is it? Hit the wall and go the way. If you throw it too far the other way, so that is, it might seem like, oh, how hard can that be? Be surprised how tricky when you first start it. After a while, you get used to that sort of movement. It just becomes something you just do, again, more naturally over time. So, okie dokie. Make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Good man.